Attention passionate LAS, Vegas Raiders fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the AFC West and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Las Vegas Raiders' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Las Vegas Raiders fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and LAS, Vegas Raiders FANS. Let's get to the news now, folks. If you've been paying close attention to the NFL offseason, you know that the AFC West continues to be one of the most competitive and unpredictable divisions in football. And for the Las Vegas Raiders, this offseason has been filled with both hope and a bit of uncertainty, especially when it comes to their defensive line. One of the key storylines right now revolves around Christian Wilkins, a standout defensive tackle, and what his health status could mean for the Raiders' future. The recent images of Wilkins in a walking boot have set off alarm bells among fans and analysts alike, and for good reason. This isn't just a minor bump in the road, it's a potential setback that could influence the Raiders' entire defensive strategy as they head into the 2024 season. Wilkins, who was one of their most significant free agent signings last year, had a roller coaster of a season in 2023. He played in just 5 games due to injury, and now, with this new sighting, it raises questions about his recovery timeline. The injury on the same foot that sidelined him last year suggests that the Raiders will need to be cautious, but it also highlights the need for depth on their defensive front. Depth has been an ongoing concern for the Raiders' defensive line for quite some time. While they have some promising young talent, players like Jonah Lalu, Zachary Carter, and rookies Tonka Hemingway and J.J. Paguz, they're still looking for that veteran presence to anchor the unit and provide stability. And that's where the potential move in the trade market or free agency becomes so crucial. Raiders front office, led by general manager David Ziegler and head coach Josh McDaniels, are no strangers to making calculated moves in the offseason, especially when it comes to strengthening their roster. The injury situation with Wilkins could accelerate their plans, prompting them to explore options outside the current roster. And one name that's been buzzing recently among NFL insiders is David Onyemata, a veteran defensive tackle with a solid track record across multiple teams. Now, Onyemata is a player who has garnered respect in the league for his versatility and consistency. Over the last 2 seasons with the Atlanta Falcons, he's been a reliable interior presence, starting 30 games and accumulating impressive stats: 95 total tackles, 14 tackles for loss, and 7 sacks. Before that, he spent 7 years with the New Orleans Saints, where he made a real name for himself, especially in 2020, 2021, and 2023, when Pro Football Focus ranked him among the top 10 defensive tackles in the league. That's no small feat, considering the level of competition at that position. What makes Onyemata particularly attractive to teams like the Raiders is his ability to line up all across the defensive front, although he's most effective playing on the interior. His skill set means he can adapt to different schemes and provide immediate impact, especially if Wilkins isn't able to be fully ready for the start of the season. Moreover, Onyemata's experience and leadership qualities could be exactly what the Raiders need to bolster their defensive line, which has been somewhat inconsistent over the past few years. Of course, acquiring Onyemata isn't as simple as making a phone call. It takes 2 to tango in any trade situation. The Falcons, after parting ways with Grady Jarrett, who is a cornerstone of their defensive line, are not exactly in a rebuild mode. They're still aiming to contend this year, and losing a veteran like Onyemata would require compensation that the Raiders might be willing to pay if the price is right. The Falcons did add Morgan Fox in the offseason, but they haven't shown much inclination to part with key veterans, especially not before the season kicks off. Still, the Raiders might have an ace up their sleeve. Reaching out to Atlanta's general manager Terry Fontenot could be the move that makes this happen. And you know, what's interesting is that the Raiders aren't starting from scratch here. They have a decent young core of defensive tackles, but they're still looking for that veteran leader who can bring stability and experience to the line. Onyemata's presence in the locker room and on the field could be a game changer. especially considering how crucial stopping the run and pressuring the quarterback are in today's NFL. Plus, the AFC West is packed with talented quarterbacks and dynamic offenses, which means the Raiders need to be at their best on defense if they want to compete for the division title. Now, looking at the broader picture, the Raiders have been making strategic moves this offseason to position themselves as serious contenders. They added some explosive offensive weapons, reinforcing their passing game, but the real key to their success will be how well their defense performs. Defensive improvements have been a priority, especially in stopping high-powered offenses like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. The addition of a player like Onyemata could significantly raise the team's defensive ceiling, giving them more options and flexibility in their schemes. But let's not forget, the health of Christian Wilkins remains the biggest question mark. The fact that he's already in a walking boot is concerning, and it's something the Raiders are undoubtedly monitoring closely. The team's medical staff and coaching staff will want to be cautious with him, and they'll likely have contingency plans in place. This could mean rotating more players in the interior line, giving more opportunities to young talents, or even making a trade before the season begins. The NFL is a league where depth can make all the difference, especially when injuries hit at the worst possible times. Throughout the NFL, teams are always on the lookout for that extra piece that can push them over the edge. For the Raiders, that piece could be a seasoned veteran like Onyemata, someone who can step in immediately and provide that veteran leadership and on-field production. And with the NFL trade deadline approaching, there's always a window of opportunity for teams to make bold moves. If the Raiders see the right opportunity, they'll pull the trigger, especially if Wilkins' injury proves more serious than initially thought. Now, let's talk about what this means for the Raiders' overall strategy. They've been building this roster with a mix of young talent and experienced players, trying to strike that perfect balance to contend now and build for the future. The defensive line, in particular, has been a focus area, and they've invested heavily in free agency and the draft. But as we all know, sometimes you need that veteran presence, that glue guy, who can step in and make an immediate impact. Onyemata could be that guy, someone who not only provides solid production but also helps mentor the younger players. And speaking of younger players, Jonah Lalu and Zachary Carter are promising prospects, but they're still developing. The addition of a veteran like Onyemata could accelerate their growth by giving them a mentor and a role model in the trenches. It's all about creating that depth and versatility that can withstand the inevitable injuries and slumps that come during the grueling NFL season. In terms of the team's overall outlook, the Raiders are still very much in the hunt. Their offense, led by quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, has looked promising in flashes, and the additions they made on that side of the ball could mean a more explosive attack. But defense wins championships, as the old saying goes, and that's why shoring up the line is so critical. If they can get Onyemata or another veteran in, it could be the missing piece that propels the Raiders into serious playoff contention. The AFC West, as I mentioned earlier, is loaded. The Chiefs are still the team to beat with Patrick Mahomes and that high-powered offense. The Chargers have Herbert and some game-changers on defense, while the Broncos are on the rise with a solid roster and a new focus. For the Raiders to climb to the top of this division, they'll need to be at their best on both sides of the ball. A strong defensive line is the foundation for that success, and Onyemata could very well be the piece that makes that difference. Now, some fans might be asking, what's next? Well, the Raiders will be watching Wilkins' recovery closely, and depending on how that unfolds, we could see some significant roster moves in the coming weeks. The trade market is always active, especially in late summer, and teams are eager to make that one move that can shift their fortunes. For the Raiders, adding depth and experience to the defensive line is a priority, and if Onyemata or another veteran becomes available, you can bet they'll be all over it. And lastly, I want to emphasize that this is just one piece of a larger puzzle. The Raiders have a lot of talent, a passionate fan base, and a coaching staff that's eager to turn things around after some tough seasons. The 2024 season is shaping up to be a pivotal one. Will they find the right pieces to compete at the highest level? Will Christian Wilkins be healthy enough to make an impact? And how aggressive will they be in the trade market? All of these questions are swirling around, but one thing is for sure: the Raiders are not standing still. They're actively looking for ways to improve, to get better, and to make a real push toward the playoffs and beyond. So fans, stay tuned because the coming weeks will be crucial. Keep an eye on those reports, because a move for Onyemata or another veteran could happen any day now, and it could be the boost this team needs to finally break through and contend for Super Bowl. This division is tough, but with the right moves, the right health, and a little bit of luck, the Las Vegas Raiders can definitely make some noise in 2024. Remember, this team has always been about resilience, about fighting through adversity, and about never giving up. With that spirit, and if they make the right moves, they can definitely surprise a lot of people. And now, Las Vegas Raiders fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Raiders. Do you think Onyemata is the right fit? How worried are you about Christian Wilkins' injury? And what do you expect from the Raiders this season? I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Las Vegas Raiders news. Until then, keep supporting your team, stay passionate, and let's keep the Raider Nation strong. We're in this together, and I believe big things are ahead.